All right. Thanks, everybody. I'm Rob Pettit, Chair of the Needham Board of Library Trustees. First, I would like to confirm that all members and persons anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear me. When I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. For library staff, Kim Hewitt, Director. Dimitri Kyriakis, Assistant Director.
Here.
Daniel Tawa, Archivist and Technology Specialist.
Here.
Gay Ellen Dennett, Reference and Programming Specialist.
Here.
And Faith Chrisley, Reporting Secretary.
Here.
Thank you. And for the library trustees, we've got Carol Thomas.
Here.
Anna Giraldo Kerr.
Here.
Kay Cahill. Yep. Sorry, Kay, just couldn't hear you.
Muted.
Yep.
Muted. She's turned the volume up.
Can't hear you. Yeah. The script has served its purpose. Sometimes, Kay, there's a little caret down by the microphone thing in the lower left-hand corner for many computers, and you can select different microphones with that.
Okay.
There we go.
Okay, that was it, Rob. I don't know why the wrong one was selected.
It happens. Sometimes if you plug it in, that'll do it. All right. Let's see. Rick Hardy.
Here.
Tom Harkins.
Here.
And myself here. And for agenda item 12, I don't believe we have anybody on for the LFN tonight.
Okay.
So I'll go through the intro quickly. Good evening. It is now 7 p.m. or slightly thereafter on Tuesday, December 14th, 2021. And this is an open meeting of the Needham Board of Library Trustees. This meeting is being conducted as a remote meeting under an act extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency, or the act, which was signed on June 16th, 2021. The act allows public bodies to meet entirely remotely so long as reasonable public access is afforded. This meeting will allow public comment by means of the chat function only. For this meeting, the Needham Board of Library Trustees is convening by Zoom app as posted on the town's website, identifying how the public may join. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and that all participants are participating by video conference. On video conference, please be aware that others may be able to see you, and take care not to unintentionally screen share your computer. Anything that you broadcast may be captured by the recording. For effective and clear conduct of business, for compliance with the Act, and to ensure accurate meeting minutes, I will restate our ground rules. The chair will introduce each speaker on the agenda. The chair will invite members by name to provide any comment, questions, or motions. To the extent practicable and within the bounds of open meeting law requirements for conducting a virtual meeting, we will keep the meeting style informal as we do when we meet in person. Please remember to mute your phone or computer when you're not speaking, and please remember to speak clearly and in a way that helps generate accurate minutes. For any response, please wait until the chair recognizes you so that we do not speak over each other. Feel free to wave to get my attention. After members have spoken, the chair will afford public comment as follows. Any member of the public signed into the meeting as an attendee may submit written comment or question via the chat function after identifying his, her, or their name and address only. The Assistant Library Director will monitor the chat inbox and alert the chair to submissions there. The chat submissions will be recorded and become part of the official record of the meeting. Each vote taken in this meeting will be conducted by roll call vote, which is a requirement of the Act. I now request a motion to automatically continue this meeting to Tuesday, January 11th, 2022 at 7 p.m. with the Zoom ID number, our next regularly scheduled meeting. Should any technical difficulty arise tonight to keep us from completing this meeting, we've got a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right. I will do a roll call. Rick?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Anna?
Aye.
Kay?
Aye.
Carol?
Aye.
And myself, aye. Great. So the first item on today's agenda are the minutes from the November 9th meeting. Kim had circulated those previously. Did anyone have any comments or changes to those minutes? Yep. Kay?
I have one edit I'd like to make to a sentence on page 2. It's under updates on open positions, and it's the 8th line of that paragraph that starts K noted. I felt like this didn't really capture the context and my intent, so I've written one sentence, I edited that sentence. So what would you like me to read it, or what would be the best thing to do? Read it?
If you could read it out, that would.
Okay, so this is the edited version. Given that data show that the requirement of a Master's of Library Science degree can serve as a barrier to diversity in library employment, Kay noted that the library positions that do not require such a degree can provide opportunities for diversity and inclusion in hiring, and the opportunity to mentor and encourage employees to pursue advanced library degrees. So I can submit that language.
Yep.
Could you send that to both myself and Faith, Kay?
Yes, yourself and
Faith.
And Faith, yes, I could do that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And Anna, you've got your hand raised.
Yeah, I wonder if it's be easier to just copy paste that sentence into the chat. I don't know if that's okay or not, but that may just be quicker, or do we have to?
I'm happy to do that if that's the preferred method.
I think sending it to us separately.
By email.
Incorporate
Okay.
the minutes. Okay. And then when Danielle posts it on the website, it'll be corrected. The minutes on the website.
Perfect. Okay, Carol? You're on mute right now.
I had 2 small things on page 3 under item 5, the last paragraph of it, which comes at the top of the page. Carol asked about how much.
I'm sorry, Carol, what page are you on? It cut out for me just when you said page. I apologize.
Page 3. It's the first complete, in the first complete paragraph at the top. Carol asked about how much the trustees usually vote to spend to grow the fund.
Got it. Okay.
And the only other thing was page 6 on the McIver. Carol has 2 events scheduled. And that is it.
Great. Did anyone else have any comments to the draft minutes? Right, in that case, do we have a motion to approve the minutes as amended?
So moved.
All right, we've got it sound like we got a second there as well. We'll do a roll call. Rick?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Anna?
Aye.
Kay?
Aye.
Carol?
Aye.
And myself, aye. Great. In that case, we can move on to the next agenda item, which is the director's report, and I'll turn it over to Kim.
Thank you. So I'm not sure how this usually works, but if you'd like me to go through some of the highlights, I can, or if you just had comments or questions about the minute or about the report, I'm happy to answer them. I was really excited. We have been through a lot this month. I felt like I was in meetings all the time, and so I counted because I thought that would be interesting, and it's over 80 meetings in 29 working days. So not a lot of downtime to really dig into things like our budget, but you know, kind of getting some piecemeal info from my staff and everything too. So feeling more comfortable every day. Had a successful meet and greet on Friday. We're looking forward to our next one in January. Hopefully some of you will be able to make it. It'll be January 6th from 4 to 6. things are running smoothly. Generally, Erin was really excited to be back at the high school. We had our first hybrid book club that went really well. Danielle's been updating all of our technology, and great with working with me with all of my requests as I get comfortable and find out what's feeling right in my office. And we're about to start doing a lot of interviewing. So Dimitri's been great. We've been working with, the appropriate department heads to get through their applicant pools and start making those phone calls. So we're looking to start right now, the 21st looks like the first date that we'll do a couple interviews and get going for probably the next month. Yeah. Any questions or things I can speak to?
Yeah, just a quick way. It's and mostly directed to Dimitri. It looks like there's a lot more applicants now than there ever were. We were having trouble finding applicants.
Well, we were, although I will tell you it's a little deceiving because, for example, for the 3 circulation positions, normally we got an average about 250, but this last time we got 80. So, and I can tell you that I've been calling to set up interviews. I've got 3 set up so far. I have a lot of people who have not called me back. And that's the trend. That's not new just now. It's been over the last year where, you've heard term ghosting. So I know people have a lot of choices. That seems to be more prevalent for the circulation positions because those folks obviously look at a larger pool of jobs as opposed to just library jobs. It's not really the case when it's like for reference librarian, for children's or the reference department. So, but, it's, like I said, 80 is not bad, but we'll see how many we get to interview. And it's not in here, but we've also posted a couple of tech service positions and 2 more circulation positions, which are the positions that Janet Korwiecki and Sebastian Seltzer left. So
those went out last week after our
it just went out last week. So, but to answer your question, and I know it sounds like a lot. It's not actually. I feel more comfortable if I see over 2. If I saw 80 for one position, that was the old normal. 80 applicants, even using Indeed, where people apply for places like Colorado and Indiana, whether they actually intend to move out this way. Sometimes people, when they do that in the past, they'll say, my spouse or partner or parents live out there and I'm looking to relocate. When you get no such indication, they're just applying to everything, So, anyhow, but still, I'm still grateful for all the ones that we do get.
Technically it's like one position it's the same job in Circ. So that does make it a little different. And I personally would be very upset having to go through 200 applicants for that. So I'm happy with the number, but yes. And like you mentioned, we'll be looking forward to hiring some more folks in different departments. And I'm really looking forward to hopefully in January when HR has a new system in place so that we can check on applications as they roll in, which is going to be a really wonderful way to speed up the process, we hope. Yeah. So.
Question.
Carol? Yeah.
We only have 2 part-time tech services people, correct? So they're both vacant?
Correct.
Yes. One is the position that Megan Chiricola had, and then she moved up to reference as a part-time reference librarian.
Right.
And the other one is Deborah Reardon, who is moving to Florida, and her last day is going to be December 23rd.
Oh, I didn't know.
And HR is allowing us to advertise a couple of positions, before they get vacated, with the intention those folks are going to be, going to replace them before they leave.
Yeah.
The other position is in children's, which is Mariana Sorensen, who got a full-time position at the Southborough Public Library, but she's still filling in Sundays for us. So that's the other one too. That's, I think I posted that one. I think that's on there too.
Yeah. So some people haven't actually left yet.
Yeah.
But we're able to post.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, I love that.
Great. I think, do we need to do a motion to accept the gift list?
I had a question about this actually.
Sure.
It was brought up that potentially this was not something that needed to be on here because it wasn't books and material. It's a periodical that they gifted a subscription to for 3 years. I thought gifts was all the gifts, but it came up that it might just be gifts for books and things. So I want some clarification there if I could get it.
Oh, In the past, we've approved everything from puzzles to videos to other, artwork. I think we're probably erring on the side of caution when it comes to taking the votes to approve gifts.
Perfect. Great.
Yeah. I believe those gifts are also noted in the selectmen's meeting as well, select board.
But they have to be approved by this board first, I think.
Right.
Yeah. So might as well.
So the select board consent calendar.
Consent, yeah.
Yeah. So moved
Right.
to accept.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, I'll run through. Rick?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Anna?
Aye.
Kay?
Aye.
Carol?
Aye.
And myself, aye. Great. Kim, anything else on the main part of the director's report, or should we move on to building and grounds?
No, I'm happy to move on to building and grounds, unless there are questions. So, Angel and his crew, they finished painting the clock tower, so that was great. When he was up there last time, we had mentioned he noticed some painting that needed to be redone. That has been completed. They still have a lot of items pending, so I don't know if there are questions or concerns or comments about any of that, or do you want me to run through it?
No, I just have to note that in the last meeting we said, oh, we've got the parts and we'll have the elevator fixed in 2 weeks, and of course we're still waiting for parts.
And the guys
are here, so that's
here.
Yeah. Plus our other elevator in the meantime had broken for a little bit, and so they were coming to repair that, and but they were working on this staff elevator just the end of last week, so there is movement on it.
The staff is well trained in terms of being able to handle the stairs over this period of time with the different elevators.
It doesn't work well with book trucks.
Carol?
Oh, I was just going to ask about this in the report about the trying out some new lights. Who has seen the 2 sample lights? Has anybody seen them and see whether they really are a big improvement?
I think they are. I know Jay, who isn't here tonight, had also seen them. And I think he had a question at the last meeting about that. I mean, where we are is Sean, the electrician, is stretched thin all over town. And it is on his list of things that he's promised us. And Angel, check with him again. He is going to come out to do them, but they've got to get the extra fixtures. And so it's on his radar. But
a choice has been made.
I'm sorry?
I understood there were 2 sample lights. I thought maybe they were different from each other.
No, they were the same kind. They improved. Yeah.
Oh, I see. Okay, thank you.
Okay, sure.
Okay.
Yes, I just wanted to ask about the last item on buildings and ground, the visual and sound fire alarm systems. So what is the status? I assume we have some kind of fire alarms in the community room right now, or what's the status?
You do have it. It's just that the pantry itself does not have that particular kind of alarm. And if the door is closed, someone with hearing incapability will not be able to know that there's a fire alarm going off, as there is no lights to flash.
Okay, so it's just the pantry. Okay.
Just the pantry.
Great. Anything else under building and grounds? Okay, in that case, let's move on to the financial reports. Kim, did you have any update on those?
Again, not sure exactly what I need to say about it. You have the reports. With state aid, I definitely have some things to bring up in a bit about our spending. We did get the disbursement from the state, but it hasn't hit our accounts yet, so we're not reporting it at this time. But that should be about $24,000, and you'll see it on next month's report. We are holding on to the security camera expenses for now as an encumbrance, because we're still figuring out what the actual process is going to be. So hopefully by next month, you'll have more info. because I'm trying to fast track some meetings with the appropriate parties to figure that one out. The spending for trust funds was, you know, our normal kind of things. The Hatch Fund and Weller, you know, we spent on children's books. Permanent donation fund was typically for adult collection materials. And I mean, other than that, I think everything's looking good to me, but, and I've been assured by those with a historical perspective that things are looking good. So I feel confident that we're in good shape. Are there any questions that I can answer about it or try to?
Probably get back to this state aid with new business when.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great. Okay. In that case, we can move on to the statistical report.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So our circulation in September was slightly down from August, but it was really very small, like 50 items difference. So not so bad. We seem to be relatively steady in most areas. We've seen an increase in foot traffic for sure. That was up 16%. Study room usage was up 54%. And computer use up 10%, printer use up 10%, and program attendance was up 2%. So, you know, we are seeing good signs that people are coming back. I think, unfortunately, I'm a little wary of how numbers will be for foot traffic and program attendance in person as we move through the winter and this new variant. I think people are, right as people are feeling, you know, excited to come out again, we're getting hit with yet another variant, which I feel like is what happened to us with Delta. So we'll see. But I know from Gay that, you know, program attendance for programs that we're putting online is also doing really well. So, you know, we'll just look to try and offer hybrid programming or virtual programming to meet people's needs still. So yeah, nothing that I was hugely concerned about.
Okay. Yeah, I wonder if we'll just see more people coming in for shorter periods of time, but still coming in because people are vaccinated now. It's not quite the situation that we were in a year ago, hopefully. Okay. Anything else? Any questions on statistical reports, Anna?
Yeah, I'm looking at the overdue fines, and they're $43 there. Is that, I'm just curious, I know it's a small amount, but I'm just curious, I thought we weren't charging any fines any longer.
Yeah. So the way that Minuteman works is it's kind of a when in Rome sort of system. So if you're at Needham, our rules apply. If you take out our material at Newton or somewhere that is not fine free, you may find a charge on it if you return it there. If you return it here, our rules apply. So I think it's either monthly or quarterly, we get a check from Minuteman with whatever fines were paid that were owed to us that people paid online or by check in a building or something like that. So I think that's why you're seeing such a small amount. My understanding is too that we also do charge late fees for our museum passes still, but I'm fairly certain that's not what this is.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Great. If there are no more questions on the statistical report, then we can move on to new business. And the first item under that is state aid.
Yes. So I was hoping to put aside some of our state aid money to pay for some passive training from Ryan Dowd, which he operates a program called Homeless Library Academy. It provides 20 hours of trainings to our staff, to all of our staff. It's go at your own pace. They actually update it every month with a new webinar that's fresh and relevant. He did a lot about handling COVID behaviors, you know, dealing with challenging patrons, dealing with, I think some of the topics are, you know, serving teens, responding to prejudice and burnout, how to respond when you're being hit on by a patron, anything like that, where staff can really use that training to help negotiate those tougher situations. I don't feel like we have a ton of those situations here, but unfortunately that means people don't get a lot of practice with some of the sort of scripts that you can use with people. And so this training would be really, really valuable. It is just under $1,000 for the year. And again, it's 20 hours of webinars, usually about 1 hour each. So that's pretty much 20 different trainings that we're looking at, plus the addition of one every month going forward that we would have access to during that time as well. So I was hoping that we could put aside $1,000 for that. And I also wanted to earmark $5,000 for an in-person training. We don't have specific speakers or anything lined up, but I definitely have some topics in mind. And this is kind of in relation to a request that I'll be making after we hit the state aid part. So if you'd like, I can speak about that now and then come back to this request.
I think that might make sense to circle back to this after the entire state aid. And Carol, you had your hand raised.
I did have a question. I mean, since we're every dollar is encumbered at the moment, every dollar that's here. And my recollection is that we usually do not spend in the same fiscal year the state aid for this fiscal year. That we usually hold that for the following fiscal year. Am I right about that, Tom? Does that sound right to you or anyone else?
We've never seen done it, but then again, we could always change encumbered funds.
Yeah.
Well, but if we didn't, if we were going to rely on new funds, is there a reason we need to wait until fiscal 23 to spend 22 state aid?
No, I do not believe there is. The money comes not subject to appropriation for us to use.
So that's not, it's just our choice that we've done it that way.
Yeah.
Okay.
I looked at the regulations a while back just to see if there was any guidance around it, and there really is none. You can use it for just about anything once it hits the account.
I see. Good.
Yeah, and I'm hoping that we'll clear up some of this too with, whether we need to have the money for the security cameras.
Yeah.
And also, I'm unclear about where we are with the Collins Center space study versus I'm just not sure exactly where we are with that, but I'm hoping that we'll have some money that we could use from this year and then continue to encumber that same amount for the things that are already listed as encumbered. So
actually, I think Dimitri had his hand raised there.
Oh, yes. Sorry.
Yeah, I just want to add about the Collins Center. The gentleman that was going to do the space study for us, he retired. They don't have any other librarians or library-related professionals. So it's a good possibility that whoever else we get to do it, it won't be the Collins Center. It'll probably be another consultant organization to do that. And I'm looking into that.
And that may take some time
we
might end up using the money for 22 in that year.
Yeah.
Okay.
And as I look at the list for the encumbrances, it does look like there's maybe some other things that we also don't end up spending in this fiscal year. So probably wouldn't be difficult to add $1,000. And also a great idea, by the way. I love this training session, having worked at a big city hospital for years, I know that kind of training is really valuable and you have to keep fresh on it. So since, as you mentioned, they don't get a lot of practice in dealing with the population of the homeless, it's a great idea. And also just generally, thank you for a great director's report, Kim.
Oh, thank you. I do want to clarify just quickly too, the name is somewhat deceptive. He started out only focusing on homelessness and that, but has really expanded in the past few years. And so it is all, all the things I mentioned, plus a lot more too.
Right.
Yeah, that sounds like a great program. Carol?
Question whether trustees are eligible as employees to take in some of these trainings, just for our education, really.
Yes, it would cost slightly more, but yes.
I see.
But it's incremental, I'm sure. So yeah, that would be amazing if anyone was interested. I think they ask you to pay for how many people will actually watch, or how many employees you actually have, not how many people will watch. So I think the bracket we're in probably does have the trustees covered. I don't think it was that we were at the cap for that anyway. So
you could let us know,
yeah.
if it's an additional expense, we should think about whether we'd really use it, but yeah. Thank you.
Okay, so yes, and then as I mentioned, the security camera information is being worked on.
Could I ask you in the same breath, because I think the same person is involved at Public Works, Cecilia Simchuk. With, how do you pronounce it?
Simchuk, I think.
It sounds like, it looks like that. Anyway, she, I know that I'm pretty sure she's the one that Ann spoke with about a phone system, as well as now about security cameras.
Yes.
And I don't know how aware she is, how urgent that the phone system seems to you, or how, it was expressed to Cecilia when it was brought to her attention. My understanding is that will be a capital expense, but it wasn't clear to me whether it is a building maintenance. I thought it was going to be a building maintenance or her department, not library department expense, but might be pushed out a ways before they could fit it in. Could you, let us know where that stands when you talk with, you'll probably be talking with her anyway.
Yes, and I can tell you now too, because we've met, and that was something that came up right away. They said they know that that's an issue. They're working on a town-wide plan to replace the phones everywhere. So it's not something that we're just on a back burner somewhere. We are part of their plan, and they're trying to get it done in the next few years. So I think our system is livable. It sounded like it was on the front end of the next couple of years, but I don't have the, I don't have a date. But it is something that every time we see each other, I'm making sure we're discussing where things are. Cecilia was actually not aware about the security camera issue, so it had not gotten to her yet. It had been her boss that suggested that we needed to talk to her, but that had not happened. And so that was a discovery this month, and we are, planning a meeting to talk about it. So we're untangling that issue too. The phones are definitely something that would be, it sounds like, covered by them. But again, is part of a town-wide move to VoIP or something like that, like voice over IP or something, a totally different system.
Yeah. Well, I hope the last two phones hold on for a couple of years. Sounds like it's Tinker Toys, replacing this or that, but we're about out of Tinker Toys.
I know, it's fun. But yes, I mean, they have to come replace it every time something's wrong. So it's incumbent upon them to speed it along too. So I think it is a priority for them, because all the phone systems are apparently not good. So.
And, when we speak about state aid, Kim was mentioning there's a couple of trainings. One is about up to 1,000. The other would be up to 5,000. When we're going to FinCom in, I believe it's early February, a couple of the requests relate to moving some of these state aid items into the regular budget. Things like overdrive. I believe that WorldCat was part of that as well. Some of these expenses that really are core library services and that we've lobbied to get into the regular budget for some time, but we're going to be making that effort again. And these types of trainings, as well as some of the other kind of innovative programs that we're going to be thinking about in the next few months, will be good things that we can put forward to FinCom as basically what will we use these funds for, if not for overdrive and WorldCat. So in my mind, at least, that's another reason to support this. They sound like excellent trainings as well, but these will be a good way to show exactly what we're going to do with the state aid money, aside from what it's been used for historically.
I would just, may I speak?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Go ahead, Carol.
Yeah, I was going to say, if it turns out that we're assured by the time, the FinCom meeting comes along that that the security cameras will not be in our budget, there'll be another budget, then I would suggest that we use some, assume we'll use those funds, earmark them for these two programs that you have described, and continue with our policy, at least for now, of not spending the new state aid until the following fiscal year. We can always vote to do otherwise if we need to, but just so it doesn't look like there's a lot of money hanging out there. We've always done that in my tenure, at least.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
And how, I guess the question is, that would push out these trainings by what, a few months then?
Sounds that way.
If we were to do that, and is there any way we can reallocate the encumbrances for the existing fiscal year? I'm just thinking out loud here.
Good.
Yeah, we're not locked into these, are we? I mean, if things change.
Yeah.
We voted a budget, correct? And if we want to change the budget, we'll change the budget for how the state aid will be spent. The trustees do need to vote on that, but I would think that if we don't think we're really going to, maybe we make the space study 11,000, or I mean, there is an alternative, which is to use trust funds, which might be quite appropriate for, say, the smaller amount that you wanted to get going on right away. We could vote to do that instead, I suppose.
Just the
okay. Yep.
Yeah, I guess maybe I'm not quite following. It seems like we have two pretty big items here that we're unlikely to spend this fiscal year, which is the security cameras and the space study. So maybe is there something I'm not getting about?
I think we just have to reduce the encumbrance for those if we were going to add something else in, if we were going to be consistent with our policy of not allocating future state aid funds for the existing fiscal year.
So
for example, the Collins space study, if we were to knock $6,000 off of that and subsequently increase it in the next fiscal year, that would free up enough to fund both of these trainings.
May I ask?
Sure, go ahead.
Yes, so I guess I'd like clarity around, does the policy actually say that? And does it, and is there documentation about what I need to do to like unencumber some of the money? It had been explained to me that it was just up to me to write it down as such and then bring it to the trustees each month. So I would like clarity so I don't, step
We
astray.
voted on a budget last fall, correct, Rob? This fall, I think we voted on a budget for spending of.
Right. We voted on the overall state aid budget. We can change it at any time we want.
Yeah.
We're not absolutely bound to it for the year, but yeah, I think, we have a state aid policy too. I don't think that the state aid policy speaks to when funds can be expended, but I don't think anything would prohibit us from unencumbering some of the state aid funds from what had previously been set aside, or reallocating them if we so voted.
And in order to vote on that, would it be something that I would need to bring back next month at this point? Or is it something that, if people felt like they wanted to vote on it tonight, they could make a motion to do that?
I mean, we can, oh, sorry, go ahead, Tom.
Well, you're the chair, but if you wanted I think we can do it tonight.
If folks are in agreement, we can certainly vote on that tonight. I guess, Kim, from your perspective, what's the highest priority right now in terms of when you're balancing these different things, the trainings that you mentioned, the space study, like what's kind of on the front burner right now?
Well, certainly the training is a big one. the space study is important. I want to get that done. I'm not sure how likely it is that we'll be getting that done at the same time as we're starting a strategic plan process. So I don't know. That feels like a lot for the next 6 months, but I can certainly work to make it happen if that's kind of the general feeling that we'd like to accomplish all of that at the same time. I think our strategic plan will help inform our study, our space study, because we'll have like definitive goals in mind, and the study, you know, will likely be part of that. So I think it might take more than 6 months to get to a point where we are spending the money for a space study, which means that money might be free at the moment. I don't want to keep it just unencumbered because I think that's not a great strategy either. But having money set aside so I could do some in-person training and have money that I know I can pull to pay somebody to come or to get lunch for the group or whatever it is would be so beneficial. Because as the new director, I'm definitely setting a new tone, and I need, you know, some experts in those different areas to come in and help get everyone on the same team.
Anna?
Yeah, Kim, thanks for that clarification. Is part of my question, actually. Just wanted to understand what kind of training are you thinking about and how that training may fit with a strategic plan. There is also staff study. So I'm trying to redo that first and then the training, or is this training short-term and there'll be future training? I'm just trying to help me understand what you're thinking.
Sure. So a lot of it's customer service based thinking, but also I think what's come up that I feel is crucial is working on team dynamics and some communication, like organizational communication. So those are the main topics that I'm kind of buzzing about and looking into. I have a much larger request for maybe future years in mind of having, you know, consultants come in to kind of assess us in terms of a diversity, equity, inclusion company to come in and take a look at what we're doing, how our policies work, whether they think, you know, I don't know, they'll identify kind of our needs and work with us on training for that. So the customer service part is a big one. Working with folks with like on the spectrum or with different disabilities is also a really big one. Several staff have mentioned a concern around that or an interest in it. And so since so many people brought it up, it was kind of like, okay, yeah, like you're telling me the need and my job is to respond, you know. So I'm not sure, I don't have speakers in mind yet because it's been quite a month and I haven't had the time to look around, but I am guessing that if we were going to have some people come and talk to us, they would cost a few $100s or something. And then we'd be looking at a few $100s for some food or things like that. So I was kind of picking a number that felt right to have a few people in to talk about different things, whether it's over a period of time, or whether we can have an in-service day and have a few speakers lined up that I can work with, whatever, but I would love to have the funding there to really support my new, you know, kind of my initiatives and what I'm noticing that we might need help with.
So what I am understanding is there is an immediate need that you've identified with the help of the staff. Mm-hmm. And then down the road, as the strategic plan is created and developed, and along with the staff study, there may be other needs for other training.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. Got it. Thank you.
Carol?
I'm just thinking about, you know, the best way to handle this. I think you ought to have Rain to do, you know, we want to make the funds available to you one way or another. So that you can do this in the timetable that is, you know, seems right for you. And it sounded like you would have the year subscription sort of to this thing that costs about $1,000. So that you wanted this meeting for sure. The next, you know, the larger request I don't know if you feel you need it in order to get started, or you feel like, well, you know that you have our, you know, confidence, you have confidence that we are in your court, you know, in your corner on doing this. And that's enough until you get more specific, until we can sort of iron out where to unencumber funds from the existing state aid or elsewhere to pay for it. I also just thinking ahead to the FinCom, and I would like somehow, I don't know what the way is, but I would like them to know that you have these plans. You want to do a DEI study, and that's going to cost money. And if we have to continue paying for canopy and these basics that people would be screaming if we did not have, as just an ordinary thing. I'd like them to know that you have other plans and you need to free up funds for those things that we really ought to be doing with state.
Agree. Yeah, because I do think, you know, I've been thinking about that and the types of things we might talk about with them that we would like to use state aid for. I certainly do have a list going. Some of it, you know, might be long shots, some of it maybe not, but, you know, a DEI study is, you know, typically $60,000. So if we're paying for a canopy and overdrive, that money's gone. And it's really unfortunate because these are the types of things that we want our public facing building and staff to have, you know, really good skills in. So, yes, you know, and it's, you know, this meeting is a great example of why that would be so beneficial, because right now we're having to discuss whether we can do staff training, you know, in an immediate sense, because we have the money encumbered for things that really should be in our materials budget. So that is certainly something I'll be trying to make the case for with.
Yeah. And I think it's a very brief time you get to make your case. So you have to have it on the tip of your tongue.
And also we hope that, you know, as many trustees as possible will appear as backup at the FinCom meeting, you know, for moral support. And I know
do we know when it is yet, or still?
Yes, not? Actually, I did get the date, and I'm sorry, I probably should have sent it out. February 2nd, I will be meeting, although, yes, February 2nd, I believe, is my hearing at 7 p.m.
Groundhog Day.
Groundhog Day.
Well,
over and over.
I feel like it.
Anna's got your hand up.
Thank you, Rob. And just a couple of follow-up questions to the discussion that just happened. Since there's going to be, I'm all in favor for the training money that is being requested, the $5,000 and everything else. But I'm trying to think in terms of process and timelines. If you have the 20+ self-study videos, how long will that take, and when are you planning to have the in-person, right? So do you want them sequential? Do you want them in parallel? Will that buy you some time to figure out, make decisions on the money? And so that's one thing. You don't have to answer, but just for you to consider. And two, if you want to do a DEI study, do you want to do that before the strategic plan and before the staff study? Because DEI is not only about treating people nice; it is the whole core of the operations. So we need to really think very thoroughly how the sequence of those activities, the strategic plan, DEI study, which one is first, are they done, in parallel or not? Because it's a big expense. It will be a big expense. So how do we maximize the impact of those studies?
Yeah, so I can speak to that a little bit. Right now, a lot of the DEI firms are completely overwhelmed, and they are looking at working with municipalities or libraries and organizations, a year out. for some of the really great ones. So I feel like that's probably another 2 or 3 years away where we'd really be able to have someone come in and assess what's going on. Because again, it's sort of, you know, my fingerprint isn't on the library yet. You know, like I'd like a chance to review our policies, see what we can change as us, you know, as a group. If anything stands out, you know, or whatever it is, like I haven't had time to do that at all yet. And I think I always take the opportunity when I started a new job to review everything. So looking at our loan rules and all the little nitty gritty about our circulation rules and things, looking at our policies, those are all things I really want to do in my first couple months. And so I'm sure I'll be coming to you with little tweaks here and there, but I'd like some of that to settle out. And I'd like some of these other trainings to come into play so that we have staff really able to have time and repetition in these conversations before they're being kind of assessed by an outside organization or feel like they're being assessed, you know, because that is part of what they do, is come in and kind of talk to each person individually, look at the culture, look at whatever. And the culture is not exactly where I'd like it to be in some ways. I think everyone has identified a need for better communication or different things like that. And I'd like us to have a chance to build together as a team before I would bring in an organization like that. So I think that's probably 2 to 3 years out because culture things are long-term changes. And, you know, staff have been so great and really good at identifying some of the key things that we might need training around. And so I think starting with those smaller pieces is going to be the best way to like kind of snowball effect to really build people up and build that muscle of kind of being reflective and looking inward and thinking about how we present outward, you know, might be new to people. So
the strategic plan then may have to be amended based on what the DI study finds. I'm just trying to,
I don't think so.
If we start a strategic plan before a DI study and they're not congruent, they're not aligned, then I don't want us, my worry is that we're going to end up with a strategic plan that is not supporting the DI strategy that the library wants to. So that's the, you know, something to think about.
Yeah, I think, you know, diversity has been in the strategic plan for, you know, the past 5 years. And that is something that I would think we would be paying attention to for the next strategic plan. But I'd also argue that our strategic plan should be shorter than 5 years. They typically are now being done at a 3-year, 2-year kind of thing. So if we want to investigate something like that when we're closer to making those decisions, I'd be happy to discuss. I do think we're going to need to do this strategic plan first, simply because it's going to take so long to get to a point where we'd have a group come in. And I don't think the strategic plan is only so much, right? That's a small fraction of what we have going on here, where it's the culture, it's, you know, people's individual biases and things, you know, that's not in a strategic plan. That is something that they're going to be looking at in our policies. So I think, like, I wish we could do it the other way around, but I think out of necessity, we're not going to be able to. It's going to have to be strategic plan and then anything else, like, you know, basically the space study and stuff like that too. So but also some of the DEI topics are in the webinars that we'll be purchasing. I would like people to be able to do some of those at their own pace throughout the year. That's the kind of joy of it being asynchronous, is that we don't have to plan one time. What I think the larger funding that I'm asking for is in relationship to a different request, which is for an in-service day, so that I can get the whole team together on a day and do some visioning and thinking about what we want our organization to look like, but also so they can all hear directly from me yet again, because we've all met one-on-one, but time to work together as a team and really talk about certain topics or how we might handle situations in the library. Some of that I'm certainly happy to do on my own, and maybe I don't need to have a speaker in at that point. Maybe we could just do like a morning kind of together or something like that. But I really would like to get the time together for everyone to participate, because I think we need a lot of cross-departmental teamwork happening. So that's kind of, that's kind of in relation to that request. So,
Tom?
I have a few comments. First of all, I think, we have to realistically look at this. The Collins study, and I think we voted that in one of the last meetings, in-person meetings way back when, at that time. And we were doing that because we wanted to get something relatively inexpensive to begin with. Well, that's not a possibility right now, that particular thing we were looking for. So there's no way that this space study money is going to be spent this fiscal year. There's no way, because we haven't got a space study to do. So what I would like to do, the staff training and the $6,000 for staff training. I think that would be good out of state aid, and we can do that by moving the encumbrance to space study to $6,000 as a placeholder, and then putting in staff training for $6,000. Right, and then you can. And then that way you can keep it in the old. I don't see a reason to keep it in the fiscal year.
I personally, I agree. This seems like an immediate need. The space planning is not. I mean, it's a need, but it's not an immediate need. And I think it'd be good for Kim to have the flexibility to bring in somebody without having to wait until the next trustees meeting.
And one thing I expect that if you do have it in April, the plans you had in April, I wouldn't do April 1st, because you put a sign on the door, library closed, they'll think it's an April Fool joke.
I did think of that, yes.
Good one.
April 8th would be a better date if you're picking in April. But I do think it's a good way to do things, and I think the concern we have with state aid and allocating it. I think if we show we're spending it, rather than hoarding it, as they say, you've got that money there. But so that's why I would suggest that that's what I would propose. It might be a way to handle the situation.
Okay. Carol?
I see it. There are two things you need voted on. One is to amend the state aid account budget, and the other is to change the calendar so that you can have a day for an in-service, either whole day or half day, whatever you decide. So those are, I would look at it as two separate things that need a vote. And Tom, do I understand that you're proposing to decrease the space study? You don't have to even call it the Collins Center one anymore. We could change that just to space study, and that would leave 6,000 in that.
It would leave it leave the encumbrances the same,
It would leave a total, yeah, 6,000.
Without having to deal with this fiscal year's allocation.
Right. I mean, this 12,000 has been sitting there through the pandemic. It's not, there's no reason it can't be used some other year, but we can add to it another year, because 6 isn't going to be enough to do the job, and probably 12 won't be enough to do the job either, even to do a, what do they call it? A preliminary study. The request, the budget request, a capital request was for, I think, 60,000 to do an in-depth study, but this is just a preliminary one that we were going to pay for ourselves. So we had some idea if that was really, what the magnitude of the actual project might be. So,
and I wouldn't want I wouldn't want to delay the strategic plan,
Right.
based upon the space study too. The space studies, I think the strategic plan should be flexible enough to recognize the needs for that there might be a plan for space study. I mean, there might be a need to change the space. Yeah.
So I think Carol made a good point, which is that there's two issues to be voted on. One is reallocating, basically reducing the encumbrance for the space study down to 6,000, allocating or encumbering an additional 6,000 for the training that Kim has requested, and then the separate vote would be to just a vote in principle to set aside a day for staff training. I think certainly we can discuss the first of those, but is there any discussion around closing for a day for training?
I wondered if, Dimitri, you could tell us what has been done recently in your experience. I think there was a closed day for an in-service, either right before the pandemic or...
Well, I think before the pandemic, there was one, but I believe that was town generated. The town had somebody come in and do a training with us, and they're doing it in different departments. I can't remember exactly what it was now.
I remember that.
Yeah, and it was just before the pandemic, so I forget exactly. So that wasn't. I mean, it was. Again, I can't remember what it was, but it was for all town employees. It wasn't just for. They just happened to do the library on a particular day, and I think
security. It was a security thing on how to exit the building and how to prevent issues and what to do with lockdowns.
Yep, that's what it was. And I think we had some other town staff that came to our training as well, only because that was one of the ones that was available. If they couldn't make, they had a whole bunch of them around town at different facilities. But yeah, thank you, Gay. That's what it was.
I believe we also had one on overdoses.
Yes, we did. Yeah. So this would actually, Carol, just to circle back for a second, what Kim's proposing, these will actually be the first ones. At least I've been here 4.5 years. I don't remember any specific library trainings at the time, short tenure that I've been here. So this would be terrific. This is very much in line with what I'd experienced in Natick and what other public libraries in our area have been doing.
So overdue. Yeah. Great.
Okay.
Yeah, just to inquire about whether Kim and the rest of the staff think a full day training is better than perhaps 2 half days. There is a big difference when you shut down the library for the entire day to the public, that is. But, you should do, I don't know if you think there's one advantage to doing half days or whole days.
I think for us, I was picking a Friday because it's our shortest day, but because we have so many part-timers that work various other jobs, the scheduling of it is it's the one day and that's all they have to worry about. And I think, just when you do a training in the morning and you might get some time to process together to then go straight into work, it doesn't allow you to that really deep reflection. And I think a full day of being able to do that together is also beneficial, but I not opposed to 2 different times. If that's how I can get it done, I'm happy to do that. But I do think in terms of getting the most amount of staff at the thing, having it be one day is going to probably get us the most people here.
And I agree with him. Having at my other previous libraries before Needham, typically the trustees would vote 1 full day of in-service training, because as Kim pointed out, when you have a lot of part-time staff, it's hard to get people together, and they are more motivated to come to an in-service training if they know that's their hours for the week. They're getting paid for the whole day. They can justify committing that entire day coming to the library and getting trained.
Yep.
You need a motion
yes, Carol?
Do you need a motion for the state aid part of this?
That would be great.
I move that along what Tom suggested, that we amend our state aid account budget for this fiscal year to reduce the space study, and I would just call it space study now, from 12,000 to 6,000, and add a new line encumbering 6,000 for staff training.
Second.
Second.
All right. I'll go through the roll call. Rick.
Aye.
Tom.
Aye.
Anna.
Aye.
Kay.
Aye.
Carol.
Aye.
And myself, aye. All right, in that case, unless there's further discussion, I would move that we approve the plan to set aside a day for staff training. That day to be determined by the director.
Yep, that's so moved. Actually, you as chair can't make the motion. I'll make the motion.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
That you did. And I'll
Major faux pas. Thanks.
Second.
Second. Is it adequate to, we'll need to vote on the actual day when you decide on the day though, correct? Because it affects our voted count.
Or say at the director's discretion.
Well, but once it's decided when that day will be, I think you should just let us know and we'll vote on that particular change to our calendar that we've already voted on for the year.
Yes, so as Tom had referenced, I had this as a separate request on here because I know it needs to be two different votes. I suggested April 1st or the 8th, but I think the 8th would be the ideal day. I'd like us to aim for it, but maybe it makes sense to actually have you vote on the day, like give us the month to see if we can get some people to come in for that day,
right.
And then come back to you in January with specifics. Does that sound?
Yep.
Okay.
Sounds good to me.
Rob, I don't know.
Yeah.
There is a comment in the chat says that we've opened late a few times. I don't know if that's is relevant to. It seems like it's just a comment about if.
Right.
I'm just bringing it to the attention.
Oh, Dimitri.
So that's Veronica. Thanks, Veronica. Yeah, it's, the few times we've done that, at least in Veronica, you may remember differently. In the 4.5 years, it's always been some sort of a town-involved training, town-prompted training that we don't open late. And the town will say to us, you have to have this training. So we'd close on a Friday morning, typically. As Kim pointed out, it's the least affected day, and we would do it on a Friday morning. Veronica, I think that's, you can chime in if it's, let's see, what do you say?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
Right, so I believe we did have a motion from Rick. Do we have a second?
I seconded.
All right, I'll go through the roll call. Rick.
Aye.
Tom.
Aye.
Anna.
Aye.
Kay.
Aye.
Carol.
Aye.
And myself, aye.
Thank you.
Great.
I feel so supported. Thank you.
Yeah, no, these are great initiatives, and glad that we're hitting the ground running. Tom?
I always vote for anything with food.
It's good policy.
And once we have it, I think it would make sense to have the trustees come by for lunch for part of that and things like that too.
Nice.
So we can move on to the next item under new business, which is a lawn sign request.
Yes. So Kate Fitzpatrick had been approached by the superintendent director of Minuteman High School, asking if we could put lawn signs up around town. And one of the locations he wanted to use was some space on Highland Ave, I believe, on our lawn, which Kate asked me to ask you all about. And I do understand that there's a policy that says we do not allow lawn signs, but I was hoping that you would take the opportunity, you can discuss, and I don't really have a dog in the fight. So whatever you all decide is fine with me.
Anna?
Yeah, I think I can offer some feedback since my son actually is applying to Minuteman. So, and a couple of things. There are signs all over town. There's one in the RSTS, the town dump. There's the visual, I think the one that flashes is right there. There's also signs in several school locations for obvious reasons, particularly the Pollard area. So technically there are signs Town hall also, right? Thank you. So technically there are signs in town property already, right? So just wanted to share that as a to give some context to the decision that we need to make.
Carol? Oh, you're on mute.
I looked at the policy again, and it prohibits lawn signs except for publicity for library or library related events. And I think if you open the door to anything else, we're going to be flooded. It's going to, you know, have all this stuff on the front lawn, which is not particularly attractive. And, you know, you can't say no to somebody else if you say yes to this one. And my inclination would just be to hold the line on this to what we have in our policy. I know we considered having an art exhibit on the lawn. That was a little bit different, but we sort of cleared the air with the town about whether we're the ones to decide. We decided we didn't like the exhibit well enough to put it, you know, to the test anyway. So we kind of didn't have to decide beyond that. But I really think my sense is that it would be better not to get started publicizing, you know, various things around town on the library lawn.
Okay, Tom?
Yeah, I think the policy we have was to prevent mostly non, you know, town things. And we'll say we belong to Minuteman. With that, it would be a town thing. I don't think we'd turn down a school department thing unless it's, well, you know, maybe a PTC thing for something like that. But yeah. I do think that we would be not, you know, I think this might be valuable. But I have a question. How long is it going to be there?
That's up to us, it sounds like. I know Kate was offering some spaces around town for no more than 6 months, she said, but we could certainly have it be way less.
Actually, the application deadline is mid-January. So the kids need to apply, families need to apply by mid-January. So if we are considering this will be for another month.
Carol?
I just wanted to point out, Tom, that our policy does not say town events. It says library or library related.
Yeah, but I think we could,
specific.
You know, we could waive it. For I think we might want to reconsider, and we could waive it at this time. You know,
we could.
I think it looks as.
I
think the more we cooperate with other things, the benefit will be there. I think.
I'd be open to waiving for Minuteman specifically for a short period of time. Yeah, I totally agree that we do not want to have the library lawn become, you know, the place for lawn signs. But I also think maybe we should use it for promoting some of our own events more than we actually do. So I would favor giving Minuteman, you know, it's basically a month if according to what Anna's saying about the deadline.
I don't know how long the town has is going to allow the other signs to be up, but I know the deadline is mid-January. So just to be clear.
Gay Ellen.
Yeah, I would ask that you do this on a case-by-case basis to give me the ability to tell people who book our room that they cannot use our lawn to advertise their event at the library. I have had numerous requests to put signage up, and I said, no, it's not our policy to do it except for library events. It does give me an out.
Mm-hmm. So you're saying if this were to be approved, hypothetically, it would need to be a one-time waiver?
I would like a one-time waiver. If they want to come case by case, that's great. But it would make my life a lot easier if I can just tell them, no, we don't do it unless it's been approved by the trustees.
What's an example of that, Gay Ellen?
I have definitely the nice people from Art and Bloom would love to have us have big signage out on the lawn. We've had other groups that have, in fact, the Red Cross, when we were hosting their bloodmobiles, would always send me signs, but I don't put them out. They have to put out their sign on the day of. I've had some other groups that have done events that have wanted to put signage out to advertise it. And I said, I can't do it.
We certainly have our library signs all around Needham.
We do. And we certainly advertise our own events that we do. The Friends certainly put out the signage for their events. The LFN, when they have done things, we have our signboards that we use for our own events, but I would prefer not getting in the business of advertising other people, at least other events in the community room.
Yeah. Kim?
Yeah, I just want to clarify. I don't think that's what I'm hearing from anybody, that they would be, that you know, it's not up for discussion that we're waiving your policy forever. It's that you would make a waiver for this one exception. Is that correct?
I just want an exception.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, Gay. Thank you.
I think, as Galen says, a case by case basis, you know.
And this would be a one-time exception.
Yeah, yeah. Unless they feel it's successful and they want to do it next year, well, but I don't want to leave it up there for 6 months.
But they could come to us to ask again, like the policy would exist. It would just be.
Okay. Any further discussion, or are there any motions on this?
I move that we have a one-time exemption waiver of the policy for allow Minuteman to put up for a how long? 3-month period? 2-month period?
2.
Thought it was.
I second.
Yeah.
2-month period. Okay. We've got a second. I go second. Okay. Thank you, Anna. I'll go through the roll call. Rick.
Aye.
Tom.
Aye.
Anna.
Aye.
Kay.
Aye.
Carol.
Nay.
Okay. And myself, aye. All right, we can move on to the next item of business, which is the Sky Poetry banner discussion.
Yes. So Paul Good was kind enough to call me on my very first day, first phone call I got, and then ask about making banners to promote the library and specifically to point people to our website through these banners. He wanted to make 3 banners that would have the first line or stanza of a poem, and kind of it would say like the first line, and it would say, and then, you know, ellipses and our website. And then on the pole at like, you know, our height, there would be a QR code that someone could scan that would take them to our website, and we would have the poem posted there, I guess. He was offering this for 3 banners to stay up for 6 months. And he had some different locations picked out potentially, but I don't know if it was a definite. And he wanted to charge $550. So I want to bring it up for discussion. It's interesting, but I'm not sure that QR codes are used that frequently. So just bring it up.
Just so I understand, so he's talking about possible banners at 3 different locations in the library?
Not in the library, I'm so sorry. Somewhere else in town. And I believe it's a location, but it's 3 different banners that, yeah. I think the details are something we could work out if we were interested in paying him to do this. And Danielle, if you have anything to say.
I was just curious, do we know where he wants to put this on the website? If he wants to put it like on the front page, or if he wants to
No, I think a separate page.
Okay.
Yeah, that doesn't matter. I think he's thinking of it as a way to promote the library. And also he knows that we've been talking about directing people to our website. And so he was like thinking this could work. It's a, I think, sort of pilot type thing for him. I don't think he's done this particular type of banner before where it has a QR code that also goes to a page.
As long as it's not going to the front page.
No. No.
Anna?
Yeah, I think I missed something. The banner is going to be in the library's website or somewhere else?
The banner will be physically on a flagpole.
Oh, it's like a physical. Okay.
Yes.
I was like, because I'm thinking of a banner, a digital
banner display.
Okay.
Yeah. No, sorry. That would make sense too. No, but this would be a flagpole sort of situation where it would have a banner that has the first stanza of a poem and directs people to our website to read the rest of it. And he would use a QR code on the flagpole at, like, you know, our general average height, so that people could scan it with their phone, and then it would go to a page on our website that would have the poem.
QR codes are becoming very practical. I mean, people are, you know, for paying for, I think my question would be where that is, where to have them, where to place them. For example, that we want to try to think of Parks and Rec. Where is the traffic of flow of people that may be, you know, more optimal traffic? That, so Parks and Rec, because they're families. I don't know. I'm guessing. What other areas in
the dump?
There you go. And yes, thank you, Tom.
Always the dump.
You could have some garbage related poetry. Actually, I kind of like that, but Tom.
Yes, I think that, first of all, if it's a library thing, it's going to be our website. We should know what poems are going to be.
Yeah.
You know, I think that, you know, by sponsoring this, also, I can't imagine these things on a banner someplace and people are going to take, how big of a QR code is going to be that you're going to be able to, you know, see them from the, you know, I'm thinking where our other banners are, you know, Paul Good's other banners. And so I'm just thinking, I think we need a lot more information than I would.
The QR code would go on the flagpole around human height, like not way up there. It would be like on the pole. Yes. So that it would be at your height so you could scan it. And that he was saying it would be, you know, like
they could be clear easily vandalized, and they could be easily vandalized with one or somebody else could replace them, put another sticker to some porn site or something like that. So no, I think there's a lot of problems with this. So
that's fine.
I would think this needs a little bit more to study.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah. I think it is a great idea to have banners up around town for the website. We've really needed to get that word out. And, you know, I've been a little disappointed with the amount of visibility our website has had so far. So yeah, banners, great idea. I think we would want to see them, you know, see the design, and, you know, approve any possible design and locations.
Anna?
Yeah, why does it have to be a banner? Could we have an ad in the paper or something else, like a banner in a Needham Times website or something that is more, that may reach more folks? Why does it have to be that type of setup? I mean, Tom brings up some concerns that I can, you know, I'm thinking about too, because, and for how long? You know, it doesn't, maybe having a banner in the town hall where folks go and do their, you know, conduct business. So there's traffic, but I mean, probably vandalism would not be an issue, hopefully. But in other areas in the open air, you know, the streets, there may be, you know, it's more likely that the banners will not last. So I'm wondering why does it have to be that medium? It could be something else. I mean, we are all for visibility, but does it have to be a banner?
It's a banner because he has a banner business and that's what he's looking to do. Yeah.
I'm a little, you know, I think it's a cool idea and it's creative, but given our limited funds, I'm questioning whether this would be the best use of our sort of marketing outreach budget, as it were. Not that we have an official budget for that, but although I love the idea of an RTS tie-in somehow. Keep thinking about that, but that's just my thought.
We could put a QR code on the yellow bags.
Hey, there you go. Carol.
You wouldn't want any library books to slip into those bags, just, you know, by association. I was just thinking how I thought there was a bookmark now that someone has designed with a QR code on it to the website. I haven't seen it, but that seemed like a very good idea for people that are already using the library in person. But I like the idea of putting up something at the RTS and other places, maybe a town hall on one of their bulletin boards that just would do the same thing, but it would be more of a poster that you could, you know, have to be large at RTS because people come through there pretty fast, but it wouldn't have to even be a QR code for everyone. They could just see needhamlibrary.org, you know, and be alerted to it. I think you have to see things a lot of times before they sink in with most people. At least that's true with me. I would probably favor doing something more like that, just spreading some posters around in prominent places if we were wanting more publicity for the website.
Yes, I definitely agree. There are other avenues out there to get our website out.
If we could get on the digital displays at RTS and at the Public Services Building, that would be great because those get a lot of views.
Yeah.
What is it at RTS?
It's a big sort of LED digital sign and it has important town announcements.
And it's the town dump, just the recycling transfers.
Yeah.
Okay.
The dump.
Yeah.
And this is not
It's
like
on
that
red
yellow
record
sign
now.
that's saying that snowplow contractors are needed. This is like a nice multicolor type thing. And this seems like the kind of announcement that really should go on it.
See what we can do there.
Okay, Tom?
Yeah, I think QR codes, even older people like myself are using QR codes. You really have to. I was out in, I spent 10 days out in visiting my son out in Oakland, California, and I visited 10 breweries too. And every one of those breweries, you had the option, and some required it, to order your beer through a QR code.
Yep.
Yeah.
And they also, and most of them had proof of vaccination and had to wear a mask, except when you were drinking the beer.
That is extremely common now, is that any place that used to have paper menus or anything like that likely has a QR code, even if it's outdoors. You just have a QR code and that's what you look at drinks and food on. So they are popular, but I do question how many people would do it to see the rest of a poem or, you know. Yeah.
Danielle?
Just out of curiosity, if he's interested in doing a poem, do we know what's going to go on with the copyright of that poem? Is it a poem that he's created? Is it linking to a book?
Nope, it would have to be something that is public domain.
Okay.
Yeah.
Limericks or something like that.
There are plenty of poems that are public domain, so I'm sure he would find one. He is a business person, but that is not.
Have your attention, please.
Sorry.
The library will close in 30 minutes.
Like we're
Hey, it's working.
there.
So,
But I do, you know, I'm doing my due diligence and bringing it to you all.
yeah.
I'm not sure it's the best value for our money.
Okay. And that seems to be what I'm hearing as well. Kay?
Well, one last plug. I think banners would be a wonderful thing to have around
Okay.
town. Okay. Enough said.
Okay. Any further discussion, or Kay, if you're for this, do you want to put it out there, or do you want to dispose of the matter for now?
I think the tide has turned the other way, so maybe somebody else should do a resolution, or we should just.
And we don't need to vote for or against it if we have a general consensus. But I wanted to throw that out there for any further discussion if there is any.
I like the idea, but the execution is the issue. Yeah.
And Carol? Oh, you're on mute.
That's what I get for being so faithful by muting myself. I just wanted to mention that, I don't know if, Kim, you know that we do have banners.
Yes.
For the library, and we pay for those, same place.
Yes.
And so I don't know if there's any way to add a website to those, or at some point we could consider whether that's a possibility, because those will be up every, for a certain period of time every year. The ones that are now navy blue with white.
Yeah,
with
I think that
logo.
makes perfect sense.
I don't know if that's possible to add to them, but yeah, that was all.
There could be an opportunity to maybe put some poetry or creative quotes on those at some point too. But Anna?
I agree with Rick. I think that I like the concept of raising the visibility of the library and the website, but I question the medium. If anything, I would like to do some more targeted marketing, kind of engaging the schools, or having the principal send a note or something, or make it some kind of a contest or something to engage families, and then we have one message and more one to many, right? So that may increase our chances of people connecting, as opposed to just randomly having something out there, hoping that somebody will click, So something more targeted, I think it makes more sense. And the library already has a good relationship with several of the schools in the area. So that's one group. Another group could be the senior community, and other groups. There are many communities in Needham. So it's just what message we want to create, and then finding the channels to target those communities.
So is there any further discussion on this item? Just keeping an eye on the clock. Okay. In that case, let's move on. Just looking, we've got about 25 minutes left in our allotted time. The next item is old business. First is the website. For Dimitri and Danielle, are there any updates of note this month?
Sterling they were going to come up with a mock-up of what we'd asked for. They have not been able to get around to it yet. Their developer is really busy, but they are working on a mock-up. As soon as we have that, we'll certainly share that with all of you.
Okay. In that case, moving on, are there any updates to the equity and inclusion resolution?
Well, didn't Kim have, I'm sorry, didn't Kim have, she came up with these website pictures, right?
Oh yes, Kim, did you want to discuss those at all, or?
I think it might make more sense to, well, I'm happy to talk about it. Most places that I found that were even worth mentioning on this have some sort of carousel option near the top of the page. So I think it is something that we want to think about, where we would want a carousel, how it would differ from latest news, and would we replace the discover bar with it or try to have that moved aside? Because you can see a lot of times the scrolling is kind of a smaller box near the top. But it might make more sense to see what Sterling comes up with and then kind of review this all in total, like once we have their mock-ups. Or it could help inform what we want them to do as a mock-up if you wanted to discuss it now. So I'm honestly fine with either.
I think we have, to point to what Kim came, if you look at the first page that she came up with, the Watertown, my sense is we have enough scrolling carousels, which are very busy and sometimes hard to follow. What we don't have is a place to put announcements. And if you look at the first page, the Watertown one, I don't know if anybody can see that on their screen.
Oh, the spotlights.
Yeah, there's a spot there to put things that you want to spotlight. So, that's what I think we've had some calls for. And also notice that they also have a spot there. Masks are required, so they have a little place that we don't seem to have right at the top to put in little announcements like that. And also the spotlight box on the right-hand side, which is not a scrolling carousel, but a static place to put important, highlights, announcements, notes of things of note. So that's what I feel like we're missing.
But the Watertown one is static, right? The spotlight is static, it says.
Static, I think it's not a bad thing. I think all the scrolling is, we've got a lot of scrolling carousels.
Okay, but so you don't have a problem with that.
With some static spot where we could put change, it would change. When you say static, it just means that it's not scrolling.
Oh, I see what you mean. It's not okay.
So it just it can change whenever staff wants to change it or put something new that needs to be communicated, or even things like a new book display or a new book group, or just events or information. So this has come up as people don't know where to put things that we want to announce on the website. So I think it's something we need to look at or ask Sterling to give us a mock-up.
Yeah, they are working on a mock-up for us. I think what's clear is that a lot of libraries use a scrolling carousel to have that information. And then others like this one has, events kind of scrolling, and then the spotlights, which I do like the spotlights thing. So.
Right. So it's not, we have our scrolling carousels, we have our news site and everything, but a spotlight box is, I think, what we're talking about.
Okay. Any further discussion under websites?
Just a quick thing. Maybe I should just go to the reference department and find out about better how to do this, but I always find myself futzing around trying to find the databases. And the other thing, I do eventually find them. They're there. It's not that they're not there. It's just that it's not, to me, it's not obvious, or it takes more clicks than I would have thought necessary. But anyway, that was one thing. And the other is for the YouTube recordings of things. I know they're also there and I can find them, but it's not that obvious to me where they are and whether we might want to think about whether there's a better way or way to get people to those or highlight those. That was it. Thank you.
All right. In that case, we can move on to the next item, which is equity and inclusion. Are there any updates on that front? Oh, yeah, Anna?
Yeah, we happy to announce that Rick and I actually are happy to announce that the Diversity Discussion Book Group now is officially Needham Connects. That's the name of the group. And our tagline is building empathy through books and conversation. I will send you the flyer for our first event. It's going to be January 27th at 7 p.m. It'll be a virtual event, and we're going to be discussing the book, So You Want to Talk About Race by Ijeoma Oluo. And it is right before February, which is Black History Month. There's also some conversations in town about having a vigil for Marvin Henry. And also it'll be right after the Martin Luther King celebration from the Needham Diversity Initiative. So this is, the timing is really what works, is very well aligned. So I'll be sending the flyer to your emails, and hopefully you can join us.
That's great.
Anna, just so you know, you so far have got 8 people signed up. If you discover that we've got more people than we thought we were going to get, I can expand that room.
Okay.
So I will be watching the numbers.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I think we've typically been capped at 50. So I'm thinking it will be okay. But thank you. It's good to have options.
That'll be a good problem to have. Carol.
It wasn't noted in the report on the resolution results, but there was the annual
Oh, the Needham Diversity Summit.
Summit, that was the word I was trying to find, last month, and it was well attended. I know some of the trustees attended. I attended. Anna, I think you attended. I don't know who else. So
Tom.
Yeah, I think
I
so.
actually didn't, but Tom did.
Yeah, I think you could probably, whoever's keeping those statistics could give some credit for having some of those things done on the sort of in the third category of training or learning about DEI topics. Does that make sense? You're muted.
Sorry, would I be reporting on the trustees' activities here?
Yes, actually.
So I should be emailing you all ahead of our meetings and preparing the packet to get that info from you to add to my report.
No, we should be giving it to you. We should be sending it to you. Yeah.
So just proactively, I should expect to hear from people, and I'll put it in my report.
I think so. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Unless
the statistics I have are just about staff stuff. So
yeah, unless you want to, appoint, delegate that to somebody else and tell somebody else to contact.
Oh, I just want to clarify how I should do it moving forward. I didn't realize that I would report that I would have it in my written report.
We just wanted to commit ourselves as well as, when we pass this resolution, commit ourselves as well as staff.
Okay.
You may want to have just a deadline, by the next, by the 15th of the month or something. So we're not bombarding you with, not that we attend so many meetings, but.
Okay. No, that's great to know. I did not realize that. I thought Anna would do her report and that I would do mine, and mine would include staff. So that's good to clarify.
Yeah, I mean, that's how we've done it. It's not the only way to do it, but it's what we've done.
That's okay. I just want to know how.
Yeah, and maybe we should just do it by calendar month or something. So then it would give, a week and a half after the end of the month to,
Because it'll be in our minutes, right? Like the report of it will be in the minutes too. Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Anything else on equity and inclusion? All right. In that case, we'll move on to marketing and outreach. Kim, do you have any updates on that front?
I don't have any updates on the rest of the old business. I wasn't sure if trustees did have things that they wanted to discuss, and they seemed like things that were not closed out previously. So I was leaving them there as opportunities without yanking something away when we weren't done with it.
Yeah. So unless anybody, I guess first of all, any updates from anybody else on marketing and outreach? Okay, hearing none. Large crowded meeting rooms. I think we disposed of that the last meeting, but if there are any updates.
I will be talking to the lovely people from Art and Bloom when I get back from my so-called vacation. And I will be talking to them about exactly what we can allow them to do this year.
Okay, thanks, Kay. For the next item, actually, we do have business on the nomination to Council on Aging. There has been some progress, and many thanks to Kay, who attended 2 interviews with nominees. And just to provide some background, originally Kate Fitzpatrick had reached out to us. There were 2 vacancies on the council, one of which was the one that we're entitled to appoint a member to. Subsequently to that, the select board had reached out and was asking if we basically wanted to piggyback on their process because they were interviewing a bunch of people, and the thought was, they have some great candidates. Why not kind of work collaboratively? So Kay went there for a couple of those, and Kay, could you report on how that went?
Yes. So I was basically zoomed in to 2 of the 4 candidates that they were interviewing, and also we were provided with the kind of, I don't know what to call it, resume, but a little write-up on each candidate. One of the candidates that I sat in on was Ted Prorock, and there was a very strong consensus amongst the Council on Aging folks and the town managers that they would love to have him on board, and they would like to have the library trustees nominate Ted Prorock, because he is a veteran, a Vietnam veteran, and they very much need a a veteran to represent the townspeople, veterans on the Council on Aging. So, and I believe Tom knows Ted, right?
Yeah, I know him a little bit. Ted does. I do. He's very active in the VFW, but I got to know him when he was in the Veterans Writing Group at the Senior Center, Cath. And yeah.
So we've been asked if we would be willing. Oh, go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to.
Another thing is one of our previous nominees to this position was Tom Keating. He did it for several years, and he's very involved in the veterans too. So I think it's a nice idea that we, maybe it's because I'm a veteran, but that we have that opportunity to get a veteran in there. Yeah.
So yes, so if people want to discuss further, that's fine. Or I can make a proposal to. We would actually not be nominating; we would be appointing him to the Council of Aging.
Oh, okay.
Do you want to make a motion to appoint?
Okay. Yes. So I would like to propose that the trustees appoint Ted Prorock of 6 Briarwood Circle to represent the veterans of Needham on the Council on Aging.
Could you spell that, by the way?
Okay. Yes. It's Thaddeus, Thaddeus, Prorock, Prorok.
Thanks.
Second.
All right, I'll run through the roll call. Rick.
Aye.
Tom.
Aye.
Anna.
Aye.
Kay.
Aye.
Carol.
Aye.
And myself, aye. Great.
So I will convey this to Colleen Scheller, and she's the I believe the chair of the Council on Aging.
Perfect. And thanks again, Kay, for stepping in on that.
Yep.
Hey, can you just email me the spelling of his name?
Yes, I'd be happy to, Kay.
Because I actually take minutes for the COA, but they didn't. The spelling didn't come through, so that would be helpful. Thank you.
Sure. So we can now move out of old business right into the Art and Exhibits Committee report. And Kay, I'll turn back to you for that.
Yes. So the Arts and Exhibits Committee met in November. We basically launched ourselves to find artists for the coming year, 2020, starting January. We have not yet, but we have a growing list. We have not voted yet to and approved within the committee to bring them to the trustees. So I'm going to have a short meeting fairly soon with the art committee, and at our next trustee meeting, we'll have a list of artists for discussion and approval.
And Carol?
What is up in January? Is there anything for January or not yet?
Yes. So
did you just tell me that?
Gail, yes, we have Thomas Gately, who Gay Allen knows. Gay Allen, do you want to?
Yes. Gately is that gentleman who publishes the most wonderful photographs on the Needham Facebook page. He currently has a photograph up on the wall as part of the Needham Art Association exhibit. It is spectacular. It is on our website. So he will be January once we formally approve, really quickly now, because I have to change over art in a week and a half.
Okay.
So do you need a motion to approve, or?
Well, we want to approve Thomas Gately. The rest of the list we have to.
Yeah, we really do have to discuss the rest, but the committee was pretty much in favor of Thomas Gately.
Okay. So I guess I propose that the trustees approve Thomas Gately, photographer, to display in January.
Second.
All right, I'll do the roll call. Rick.
Aye.
Tom.
Aye.
Anna.
Aye.
Kay.
Aye.
Carol.
Aye.
And myself, aye. Thanks for that update, Kay. We'll move on now to the McIver Series. Carol, did you have any updates from that?
I do need a vote to to set aside funds for paying for the 2 programs that I have scheduled. And recently I provided Gay Ellen with a brief description from the presenters and firmed up how to make checks. So that's the only only thing that's changed. I don't know whether there will be a 3rd McIver program this spring, but for now, what I'd like to ask for is $1,000 to be approved to be funded from the Tolman Trust Fund. So if someone would like to do that, I would appreciate it, so I can make sure we can pay the 2 presenters, which are Gloria Grice of the Needham History Center and Professor Seelan, a chemist from MIT.
You can make the motion.
Yeah.
You can make that motion.
I move.
Second.
Second.
All right, I'll run through the roll call. Rick.
Aye.
Tom.
Aye.
Anna.
Aye.
Kay.
Aye.
Carol.
Aye.
And myself, aye. Carol, anything else in McIver?
No, I'll come back if I need, if something else is to be scheduled. I don't see any reason to earmark more funds right now.
Perfect. Thank you. Moving on to Friends of the Library. Does anybody have a Friends update? Oftentimes Jay has provided that, so we can check in with him at the next meeting. For the LFN, we've got Joan on.
Yes, hello. I believe Kathy sent an email about.
I'd be happy to paraphrase it if you'd like.
Yes, I mean, I just thought you might just share it with your trustees. We're just, getting started. Our hope is to finish up the balustrade and reissue that, but we haven't decided on pricing yet. Last time it was 150, but we expect it to be more. This time we're going to be marketing families and corporations, and we're going to, we've reached out, the Chamber of Commerce is going to supply all the businesses in town that we should reach out to. So we'll do a corporate reach out, family reach out, and this will probably be the last brochure for a while, because we're going to be marketing differently in the future for the next year or two anyway. And of course, this is all for the 23-24 20th anniversary in 2023-2024 that year. So I don't know if I missed anything that Kathy had said, but I just wanted to kind of give it to you briefly.
Sorry, must be a...
I was at the meeting as well as the trustees representative. I just wanted to mention that Gay Ellen and Paula presented grant requests, and the children's programs were approved. The adult programs were approved only in part. There was reluctance to spend LFN funds on more, what do you call it? Mixing drinks,
mixology, yes.
Mixology. I have sent further information to Joan and she will represent it.
Yes, yes, we're going to revisit. Yes.
And I'm hoping to have for your January meeting the other 2 programs that I would like to present.
All righty, thank you.
That's all.
Okay. And Joan, thank you. And Kathy's email, it sounds like there's some naming opportunities as well.
Correct.
And just one thing, definitely check with the town. Any naming or plaques on a town-owned building have to be approved by the select board. There's a new town-wide naming policy that I think came into effect after the library was renovated most recently. So definitely check with Katie King, I'd say, on that.
Those are the naming opportunities that exist. There aren't any new ones.
Right.
Yes.
Right. But for any of those rooms, prior to sort of implementing this plan, you just want to kind of get down.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. Great. Well, thank you, June, for that update. That brings us to trustee comments, and right on time, I might add. Do we have any? Yes.
Who did you recognize?
Carol. Yep.
I was just going to say this has been a useful meeting. I really feel like we're getting going on some exciting things, and getting to know you, Kim. It's a pleasure, and Dimitri obviously is keeping things going with memory about what's happened before, and I just feel very good, very positive about where we're headed at Needham. So.
Likewise.
Thank you. I really appreciate you all showing me the ropes too as we go through my first real meeting, I feel like.
And perhaps before we break today, we should think about the next meeting and the format. And my apologies, I just assumed that we're doing Zoom today, and I emailed out this afternoon. But in the past, we discussed going to a hybrid format in January, where we've got the owls, and those who want to show up can show up, and those who would rather not can join by Zoom. Personally, I'm actually in San Francisco in January, so I would be joining by Zoom in either instance. I think the question is really going to be, are we comfortable doing that? Will we have enough people to justify doing the in-person portion of it? Dimitri?
Well, I was going to make a suggestion. Since January is right in the middle of winter season, maybe we can say, or you folks can discuss it, maybe we say the first hybrid meeting is in April, or well out of the snow season. I don't know how everybody else feels about that, but my suggestion would be if we could continue Zoom for 3 more months, and also get through whatever variants are going on with COVID and everything else. I think if we held off till April, it would serve several purposes, get through the winter season with, COVID and with the flu season, and also get through the winter season as well.
That was my thought as well. Weather contingent.
Is the governor's directive, is that have a deadline or what?
I believe it's through April.
Through April.
But
April. Okay, good.
I would bet good money that it's going to be extended.
Yeah.
I can tell you that the PPBC is not going back to in-person until April.
Okay. And Kay, I saw that you'd raise your hand.
Yeah, my preference is to begin hybrid. I feel like just speaking for myself, I've been vaccinated 3 times now. I kind of think everybody has. And that those people who want to come, attend by Zoom can do so. I think there's a loss to not having in-person meetings. So, I'm certainly happy to go with the consensus, but my feeling is that, I don't know if you noticed tonight, I'm sitting in the, see the background? Yes. I'm in the dollhouse of the children's room. I missed the library. So anyway.
Drink yourself.
So anyway, that's just one thought.
I think that totally makes sense. I mean, I guess we need to get to a critical mass of in-person. Like if it's 3 people in a room and then everybody else on Zoom, I feel like it worked out just my thoughts. I feel like it worked out pretty well in July because we had a majority of people in person. But we're not bound to this. This is just projecting. We can make the decision a week in advance if we need to, but I just wanted to throw it out there and just get everybody's thoughts. Anna?
July was, critical meeting. And I think that's what made it, almost like imperative that you show up because this was one meeting that we needed to make many decisions. But, I'm vaccinated too, but I don't, there are again, if I think I told you when I saw you at the library the other day, if I read the paper, I get scared. You know, the numbers in the state are increasing. So you know, I'd rather err on the side of caution.
And Carol.
I think, you know, I cannot attend and I can't congregate right now. So I will definitely be on the remote.
Yeah. And I mean, the good thing is no matter what, we'll have a remote option. It's just a question of at what point do we have enough people who can be there in person to make sense just for the work for setting it up and taking it down and being there in person. Yeah. So I guess if it's okay with everybody, we'll keep an eye on it. You know, if things miraculously get a lot better in the next month, then, you know, we can certainly reevaluate. I won't be there in person, but for future meetings, I would be. But right now, based on the numbers, it looks like we might be in a bit of a tougher situation a month from now than we are right now. All right. Any further trustee comments? All right. In that case, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Happy holidays. Happy holidays, everyone.
Happy holidays to you too, Tom. And
Yes.
I'll just quickly run through the roll call as I'm required to by the act. Rick.
Aye.
Tom.
Aye.
Anna.
Aye.
Kay.
Aye.
Carol.
Aye.
And myself, aye. Happy holidays to everybody.
Happy holidays.
Have a lovely holiday.
Happy holidays.
Bye.
See you soon.
Bye.